Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Odendaal. I'm the co-founder and CEO at WNORTH. Welcome to our second session of WNORTH Conference Presents Pivot. For those of you who are new here, WNORTH is a global community of women who are aiming for or already on a senior executive leadership track. We host an annual live conference in Whistler that will be taking place October 28th to 30th. Was supposed to be taking place this week, but here we are. And we host dozens of events per year across our chapter cities in Vancouver, Toronto, New York, London, Seattle, San Francisco. 2 years ago, we created an online training hub and membership called the Members Club at WNORTH. And we now have over 400 members from across North America and the UK. Every month, we present professional development workshops curated exclusively for our members and delivered by industry experts. We host leadership mastermind sessions for 5 members and a facilitator, and we do virtual meetups. We're excited to be announcing that we're launching a new platform next week. And if you're interested in joining the waitlist to be notified when we open up, I encourage you to sign up on our website. So this morning, very excited to be bringing together an incredible group of leaders to talk about from crisis to pivot, how these organizations shifted gears, led by our fabulous moderator, Jessica Mock. Before I introduce everyone, just a couple of logistics. With regards to questions, please pop your questions in the Q&A box. We will have well over 200 attendees today, so the chat box might get a little crowded, so we really encourage you to pop your questions in there, and we will do our best to answer them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jessica Mock, who is Financial Services for Western Canada and an innovation leader at PwC Canada. She has more than 11 years of experience with extensive practical knowledge in financial services, including auditing private, public, and large public sector clients. And she is also a past WNORTH speaker. So thank you for taking the reins today, Jessica.
No problem. Thank you, Heather. And given the topic of today, I would be remiss if I didn't pause and just acknowledge the incredible pivot that you've taken. WNORTH is not just an incredible event that we're all missing being at today, but we'll be there in October. But you've also created a community and resources and opportunities for so many emerging leaders. So huge thank you, and I really do appreciate the pivot that you've taken and the leadership you've shown. So I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that. Yeah. So I'd like to also introduce Kerry Chalmers. She's the Director of Sales and Partner Events at Cisco Global Events. In January 2020, Kerry began attending daily briefings for COVID-19 crisis management and the associated response weeks before the tidal wave of change hit North America. Kerry and her team have worked tirelessly over the last few months, shifting from events of 3 to 30,000 people from live to digital, and events like today being digital. She will share insights and lessons learned throughout this monumental shift in program. And then in early March, the Canadian federal government put an open call out to the business community to retool and shift production in order to meet the increased need of equipment and supplies in the fight against COVID-19. AG Hair was one of those companies that stepped up to the plate early on, and Michele Matthews, Executive Vice President at AG Hair, has successfully led a restructure of the workforce to take up the challenge of converting their production of hair and beauty products to hand sanitizer, developing protocols to allow employees to work safely in their facility during lockdown. And finally, Christy Allan is the Director of Sales, Marketing, and Guest Services at Sea to Sky Gondola. And as you may all know, at least those of you here in beautiful BC, the Sea to Sky Gondola faced a crisis last year when it was vandalized and forced to shut its doors for over 6 months. Mid-February, the gondola reopened after replacing the damaged gondola cabins, only to reshut its doors a month later. And Christy brings a unique perspective, having just gone through this a crisis, and will bring her experience in that to this discussion. So I'd like to pass off to Christy perhaps to start and tell us a bit about that experience and a bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm going to start with looking back on a crisis pre-COVID. at the Sea to Sky Gondola. For those of you who are not familiar, the gondola is located in Squamish, and that's between Vancouver and Whistler. And the gondola is one of BC's newest tourist attractions. It's 6 years old next month. And up until last August, we had seen incredible year-over-year growth. We are one of the largest employers in Squamish. And we've been seeing visitors from all over the world while maintaining a solid community engagement. It truly is Squamish's gondola. 40% of our residents are pass holders, just to give you a sense of how big a part of the community that is. So touching on this first crisis, it really has informed how we've responded to COVID-19. And early in the morning on August 10th, I received a text. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. I was on holidays. And the text just read, there's been a catastrophic rope failure. There's cabins on the ground. And that's what I woke up to early that morning. Within a few hours, the RCMP had taken over the case. So it did turn out to be confirmed as an act of vandalism. But at the time, there was tons of unknown. We lost 21 of our 30 cabins. And we didn't know how long the rebuild was going to take. Within the first week or so, we started to estimate that it would be spring of 2020. We had to give ourselves time on either side, and that we all were thrust into this crisis management mode. We had a great baseline. We had really good plans in place, but we quickly realized that reality is very different than tabletop exercises and crisis management plans. First of all, so many of our team were on holidays. It was August, and so many of our management team, key players, were on holidays at the time and had to manage from afar while trying to get back on site. The other piece that we hadn't had happen in planning before was the emotional side. Emotions were running so high. The team was heartbroken, and everybody was dealing with it in different ways. Grief, loss, shock, it was all coming out. And the need for immediate and ongoing communication to media, staff, investors, pass holders, guests, it just went on and on. Not to mention the 22 weddings that we had happening last fall, and one happening the night of the event. We had to change on the fly, and everybody needed to be communicated to really differently. Lots of decisions to be made. We had to let go of 150 people. We had a staff of 225, and 75 people did remain, but the people who were the most successful were the ones who were able to wear multiple hats and change their roles and responsibilities easily. In addition to the job of rebuilding, which was massive, we also had two really big focuses so that we could reopen successfully. And one of them was community and pass holder engagement. We really had to make sure that the people that supported us, we were supporting them, but they would support us as we reopened. And some of the things that we do in the community that are loved are our events. One of them being Halloween and one of them being our Christmas activation. We took both of those events and we ended up activating them in the parking lot at the base. And the team that was remaining, we brought Santa in. Santa had been our big Santa for the last 5 years. Kids have grown up with Santa. We brought Santa in for the photos. And one extra thing that we did is on a media update, our general manager just threw out the idea of why don't we do drive-in movies in the parking lot? And I thought, oh boy, listening to this interview, here we go. And we ended up doing 8 drive-in movies in October, things that we had never done before. The second thing that we knew we needed to do to successfully reopen was guest confidence and brand reputation. This was a major, major act and unprecedented in the lift industry. And we had to start documenting our journey to rebuild and answer all the hard questions. Could a cable be cut with somebody on it? When will you reopen? All of these questions. So we brought people along on our journey, and we're planning to do the same thing as we journey through what our operation is going to look like through this process. We did reopen, as you said, earlier than expected on February 14th, and it was an amazing party pre-physical distancing. It felt like a real collective hug from our community and the industry. And unfortunately, just a few weeks later, we were back in the boardroom faced with the uncertainty of COVID-19. And it was incredibly difficult, but we did suspend operations again on March 18th. But we have absolutely relied on the lessons that I've talked about in order to get us through this. Right now, we're trying to be as open and transparent with staff and stakeholders as we can be. We're moving another 20 to 30 weddings out of the spring, many who had actually moved from the fall to the spring. So there's just an example of, that one-on-one communication. And we're really using our voice to share our industry message right now during crisis, and it's explore Squamish later and explore BC later. And I have to say that never in a million years as a marketer have I ever expected to tell people not to come here. So that is what we're working on right now.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Christy. Really appreciate it. Michele, do you want to share a bit about AG's journey?
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Christy. It's actually inspiring to hear an organization moving through a crisis. So AG here is a privately held company. We are based in our Coquitlam is where our brand new manufacturing facility is. And we manufacture hair care products for the salon market. And about early March, we started discussions on producing a hand sanitizer. This is well before what we knew what was happening with our customers. So we recognized what was happening in other parts of the world. We recognized that frontline workers were at risk and that we anticipated a slowdown in our business. We just didn't realize the extent to what that would be. We had no idea how much our revenues would be impacted when our customers started closing their doors, salons started closing their doors. And we knew we needed to pivot, and we knew we needed to do that quickly. And we also wanted to make sure that we were doing something that was supporting our frontline workers. So we marshaled all of our resources and we made the pivot to producing hand sanitizer. And with that pivot has come a lot of hard decisions as it relates to particularly our people. We are an organization that has employees across Canada and the United States. We are a small organization in terms of headcount size, but we are a very close, very family knit organization, still privately owned by John and Lottie. And we had to make some tough decisions to move to a skeleton staff to be able to transition over into manufacturing the hand sanitizer. So we have had to move to temporary layoffs. And we are, have been basically all hands on. Christy talked about the skill set that was required for managing through a crisis, and the skill set that is required takes us right back to our roots. It takes us back to our entrepreneurial roots of having to really dig in, roll up our sleeves, be decisive, take action, which is exactly what our team has done. It generally takes us anywhere from 12 months to 18 months from the ideation stage to delivering a product to market. We are able to do everything in-house. We have R&D, QA, QC, we have our creative department, marketing, and then right out to sales. And so again, 12 to 18 months, and we were able to do this hand sanitizer in 30 days. And 30 days with all of Health Canada approvals for our NPN license, our FDA approvals. And our primary focus for the month of April is producing product for frontline, for healthcare. I am going to take a small minute to just showcase our product because it's something we're really proud of. Tuesday, we produced our very first batch of our hands-free. And yesterday, those units left our facility and they left for PHSA. So they are going to be distributed to really the frontline heroes working in medical and healthcare throughout BC. And the fact that we've been able to pivot in 4 short weeks is astounding. And it's a testament to the incredible people that we have in our organization, the capabilities we have in the organization, and that entrepreneurial drive to get things done. So we are, we're focused on hand sanitizers. At the same time, thankfully, we have a solid e-commerce and .com business, and we are focused on digital strategies related to that. And the combination of the two are going to be our focus as we move forward.
That's phenomenal. Thank you, Michele. And then Kerry, do you want to take us through how Cisco's pivoted and the role that you played?
Sure, yeah, so I work for Cisco, and it's Cisco Systems, the tech company, not the food delivery company, just in case anyone's wondering. I lead the Cisco Global Events team. And as Jessica mentioned, I am currently in week 13 of the pandemic response. I was pulled in the last week of January. As a global company, we have teams in virtually every country around the world, and our team hosts events globally as well. So of course, pulled in fairly early with teams that we had in China, and with the emergence of the virus, at that time, there was very, very little known about it, but starting to spread across Asia Pacific. So from an events perspective, my team at Cisco was actually the first team to have to look at our events and meetings and make some tough decisions. We had a fairly large event in Bali the second week of February and needed to make some decisions really quickly. So from there, I've remained a member of the Cisco's core pandemic response team, and it's just been a whirlwind. We, of course, started with a focus in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and then from there kind of throughout the Asia Pacific, and then very quickly into Europe and around the world. So, you know, the first 6 to 8 weeks were just literally trying to keep your head above water, just trying to track hour by hour how the various entry and exit regulations from each country were changing, what the state regulations were, and starting to make decisions about meetings and events that were at that point still in the future. And it was a future that we really had no idea what it would look like. It was, you know, a lot of unknowns, and it's difficult to make decisions when you really have almost no information at your fingertips, and the information is changing on an hour by hour basis. So at Cisco, we've worked very closely as a global team, global protective services, communication, of course, the media, and making decisions that are really focused on the best interest of our employees and our customers. We do have employees globally who have been impacted personally. They've been exposed personally to COVID-19, or they're supporting family members at home. So a lot of decisions to be made. Currently, I feel like I'm in the midst of the eye of the storm, that moment of calm. And right now, I think it's calm in the sense that we are on a global mandatory work from home. So we have all 80,000 of our employees working from home. All events in our portfolio have been canceled between now and the end of August. And that extends to meetings as well. We had a lot of philosophical discussions around what's an event and what's a meeting. And with the social distancing guidelines in place, it actually became pretty easy to make decisions a number of weeks ago. But I'm sure many of you have started to hear over the last kind of 3 to 4 days, we're starting to hear talk of our country leaders about the new normal and emerging. We're starting to see some of the restrictions relaxed. Our colleagues in China are starting to return back to their offices. And so next week, we are going to be going back into a phase of extreme busyness as we start to plan that next normal and kind of how we start to manage that globally, probably over many, many months to come.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kerry. I'm struck by the incredibly significant pivots each of your organizations have made. Despite the very different organizations, there's definitely some common threads. And like you, Kerry, we shifted our workforce out of our offices globally. In Canada, we moved 8,700 people overnight to a work from home scenario. We're up and running, serving our clients. And while having the infrastructure in place and that digital first mindset and all the upskilling that we've done as an organization helps what I think has really defined our success in being able to move our workforce and keep supporting our clients and make the changes that we have is the strength of our values and our culture as an organization. And it's not just our leaders talking about it, but I hear it throughout all our people and teams. They're talking about leading with care. They're talking about reimagining the possible. And when things are hard, they come back to these values. And it's not just, I mean, the language I hear used throughout our teams and how they're working with each other, working with clients, but also their actions. And so I feel like that's what's defined our success so far in making a pivot. Can you, maybe I'll start with Michele, is just talk a bit about culture and values, and has that played a role for AG? And then can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, 100%. So we have 6 belief statements that really are our guides, are operating on a day-to-day basis. And there's 2 that really strike me with that. And the first one is we believe collaboration is key to our success. And for us to actually flip the manufacturing from hair care to hand sanitizer, it has to come down to collaboration. And that's collaboration starting with John and Lottie and the leadership team, starting with the employees from every department. We had to get into the weeds on this one, and we needed every single department on board and collaborating, and also collaborating with our suppliers. You know, we have excellent relationships. We have diversity of supply chain, and we're lucky because we've gone beyond our borders, but it's all about collaboration. And then the second one that really jumps out for us is we believe giving back is the reward for our success. And philanthropy has very deep roots at AG. We have a focus and a major focus on giving with One Girl Can Society and many local charities. And we knew that with our hand sanitizer that, you know, it's an opportunity for us as a business, but it's an opportunity for our community, and it's an opportunity to give back. And we're doing that with a 10% give back on our hand sanitizer. So those are the 2 belief statements that really jump out for us that have helped guide this process.
That's great. Christy, how about you? I mean, you talked about community, and I mean, clearly your connection to the community that Sea to Sky it operates within is a big part of that. But anything else around the culture and values of your team and how that helped navigate the first crisis that you guys went through?
Yeah, absolutely. It's helped navigate both crises in the past 9 months, for sure, and has made me realize it's not just words on paper. You know, you go through the process of setting down your values, setting down those filters, and for us, our number one is safety first. And in the first crisis with the accident, it was, or with the cable, you know, we had this massive cleanup that we had to do, and we had to do it in the safest way possible. And with this, safety first in how we get through this is guiding all of our decisions as to our phases of how do we reopen. It's a number one priority. The other one is we are good to each other, and that really shone through in the first one, and we've relied very heavily on it in all of our decisions for this particular situation, whether it be our staff, our pass holders, our guests, our suppliers. We're trying the best we can to be really good partners and really open and transparent in how we get through this. And one of the other ones we have is we're proud. And when we put information out or we stand in front of a group, are we proud of what we're saying, and are we proud of our product? And that's been a huge filter for us as well. Those are the 3 that they guide all the decisions that we make, and it's great to be part of an organization like that, for sure.
And Kerry, you guys are in a different stage. Obviously, you've been doing this for a whole lot longer. We talked earlier when you and I connected before about the marathon. Has that played a role in the sustained response of your teams?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's 2 pieces. I mean, absolutely, 100% I echo the comments around guiding principles. I mean, to me, guiding principles are a touchstone. They support you in good times, they support you in bad. And we have often gone back to our guiding principles: shared purpose, trust, accountability, excellence, fun. I mean, I think that's really the glue that's kept our team together and kept us sane. But you know, the other piece that I would call it, in addition to our guiding principles, was going back to our vision. And I know not all businesses are necessarily in this position, but our vision is that we create the most engaging experiences in the world. And for us, as we were going through these very difficult decisions, heart-wrenching, I mean, I have teams who've spent 12 months and millions and millions and millions of dollars that we were going to be walking away from in a decision that was made. And that's emotionally, that was very difficult for our team. But to be able to bring those guiding principles into those conversations, but then to be able to go back to that vision and say, we can still move forward with that vision. Maybe it's not going to be live, maybe it's not on the ground in Las Vegas or wherever it would have been, but we can do this through the digital realm and through, you know, applications like how we're connecting today. And I think it was that ability to see reality in a new light is what has helped our team continue to go forward. You know, that agility, that grace, and just keeping your eye on the vision and knowing that you can continue to move that forward. It may not look the way you thought it was going to look, but it's still a beautiful vision. Did we lose Jessica?
Yeah.
Jessica's frozen. Are you back?
Can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice. Just can't see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm not frozen in some crazy position, which has happened on a few calls over the last couple of weeks. But you know, ego aside, as long as you can hear me, that's great. Maybe what we could do is shift gears a little bit, and no doubt this has been a test of organizational resilience, but I really do think it's also a test of personal resilience. And so perhaps you could share with all of us a little bit about how you've taken care of yourself and managed your personal resilience through this crisis. Michele, do you want to start?
Sure. So I would say it for me, resiliency starts first thing in the morning, and I'm pretty structured in terms of how I have to really keep my head in the game. And I start the day with meditation, and I would really recommend for anybody the Oprah and Deepak. They're doing a meditation series specifically on hope in uncertain times that is excellent. So it's the beginning of the day and end of the day. And end of the day, I have a gratitude journal, and I set it as 5 points that I want to focus on for the day. I'm usually up around 10. So that is for me personal resiliency, having the start and the end, some really good habits there. I really stick with the facts. So I lean to Dr. Bonnie Henry, who I think is just a brilliant leader through all of this, rather than getting sucked into the news. I would also totally recommend the Good News movement. If anybody's not following it on Instagram, it's just nothing but good news. And then I think that the final piece is support, and asking for support and giving support really helps me as we manage through that. And I get tremendous support from Graham, AG CEO. I work very closely with him, along with the owners, John and Lottie, and the team. And it's making sure that we're really well connected and really well, we're communicating with each other. And those are the strategies that I operate on a daily basis to make sure that the resiliency is there.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I've recently started journaling, which is, and there's definitely a gratitude section in there. I've been resistant up until now, but I have found it's also been really helpful through this.
It shifts everything.
Christy, it does. It's a great practice. Christy, do you want to share with us some of your practices around personal resilience?
Yeah, I think over the years, I've really learned what helps get me through situations like this. And for me, it's really 3 main things. I know that I need movement every day. I need to, whether it be yoga or a run or a ride, I know I need exercise every day. I also need connectivity. So I'm always careful to, have those close, whether it be people I work with or close friends, it's making sure that that connection is strong daily and reaching out daily. And I know I need to control my health and my nutrition. That's a really big one for me. And I go for the 80-20 rule, especially in times like this. But that glass of wine is often needed. But those are the three things that I always go back to. And they're simple, but I always go back to them.
I think Jessica froze again, so maybe I'll jump in here. So, I was chatting with Jessica beforehand, and I'll speak to resilience in a moment, but she had kind of taken the resilience question and combined it with how am I taking care of myself. And I'm going to take a little different stance here from you, Michele, and you, Christy, and I'll be really honest. I mean, in the first 6 to 8 weeks, I was really bad at that. I wasn't taking very good care of myself, wasn't sleeping a lot. Gym sessions went out the window, even though at that point I could still have gone to the gym. And that work-life balance was very unbalanced. And that has now shifted. I've definitely, as we've moved into self-isolation and things have shifted globally, I've really needed to kind of look at two things. And one is I've needed to look at the fact that we're in this for the long run. When we started in January, early February, we were kind of thinking, 3-4 weeks. It's a sprint, and I'll be able to sprint through this. But I think for me in particular as a leader, I've needed to shift my approach and understand that it's actually not a sprint, it's a marathon, and it's maybe not even a marathon, it could be an ultra marathon. And so really bringing that to my mindset as well as my physical care. Now, just to shift it to a comment quickly around resilience, I think one of the things that's really kept me going, particularly during those kind of 6 to 8 weeks where the balance was not there, was a focus on doing what I love. And again, I feel very fortunate, but I would, in these moments, you have the opportunity to reflect. And my reflection has been that I've come to realize that I really am in a career and I work with a team and I'm surrounded by people who I truly, truly enjoy from the bottom of my heart. So for me, it often doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like, it's really unbalanced because it's just a shift to another area of my life that I enjoy. So I think a key to resilience too is just focusing and investing your efforts in areas that are truly aligned with your passions and your strengths.
That's great. I really appreciate you sharing that and that perspective of the marathon, right? So the sustained resilience is really so important. So just for a moment of levity, other than the fact that my video's frozen a couple of times. So, and I've been texting my husband to make sure everybody's off their schoolwork right now. He's got 4 kids trying to do schoolwork and that is just not on right now. So tell them to go outside. I was hosting a video conference last week and really focused on the information I was sharing and the faces I was seeing on the screen. And they started to smile and laugh and there were some waves. And then I realized I had a small human behind me doing bunny ears. And so there's been a lot of moments of laughter amongst my teams and my clients, peeks into people's humanity and their homes. And, seeing people at their whole selves, right? So I was wondering if you could share either a moment of levity, something kind of funny that's happened, or that, a peek into your team, or how you guys are sharing some of the challenges amongst your teams as well, and keeping it real.
I'll jump in. I'll go first.
Christy,
so,
okay.
Jessica, again, something that's been interesting for our team has been the social media game. And I'm not always 100% on social media, but I think humor has been huge for us in keeping the levity and perspective. And I think we all know there's lots of, memes can play, a not so great role sometimes, but sometimes memes can be great. And so there's a lot of humor and there's a lot of great perspective out there on our situation. On keeping it real, I know there was some joking this morning on my team. Was anyone wearing pants with buttons today? Lots of that. So the social media game and just kind of sharing the humor that we find in this very unprecedented and odd situation that we find ourselves in has been helping to keep us human and get through it. And that to me has been a real lifesaver.
Thanks, Kerry. How about you, Christy?
I would definitely tend to agree with both of you on this. It really has been a peek into people's lives and being able to share that. And at the Gondola, we do have an internal Facebook page that people are sharing all sorts of things on. But we've had a lot of temporary layoffs, and having people be able to share, whether it be funny memes or how do you get through to the CRA? Like, these are things that we're all in this together. And we just had a comment from one of our F&B staff a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I love to work at a place where your colleagues feel like family. And this is after she had been laid off. And, it was one of those moments where it's like, we are a family. We're all in this together, the entire world this time. And it's nice to know that you have that connection, even though we can't all be together right now.
Absolutely. What about you, Michele?
Yeah,
I know that
same for us. I'm still coming into the office every day because we have the manufacturing plant going, which from a personal perspective, I think my 15-year-old is quite grateful that that's happening. So levity on that front. But our team has worked together for 20 plus years. We are a family, and we are tight. And one of the things that grounds us is humor. And so even going through all of this is keeping humor top of mind and keeping it present. I think the memes help for sure, but making sure that ultimately checking in with people, ensuring people are okay, and weaving in any kind of humor where we have the opportunity to do has been critical for us.
That's great. I'm going to shift gears, and we've got a few questions from the participants, and please do ask questions in the Q&A box, and I will do my best to get to them. So I like this one. So what do you see from what you personally or your company's done during these times that you'll continue and bring forward in the next normal, whatever that looks like? What are those changes or shifts that have happened that you'd like to carry forward? Maybe Michele, do you want to start?
Sure. So for us, I'm going to go back just to the product that we've done. So hand sanitizer, because we really, in the early stages, and we're still in the early stages, but the really early stages, we thought that this would be a bridge for us to move forward. But what we're seeing is that this is an opportunity for us, a line extension for us. It's a body care that we haven't had before, new channels of distribution that's an opportunity. So in terms of the brand and in terms of the product, there's that opportunity to move forward. In terms of our culture and how we operate, I would just say it's more of us on steroids, if you will, in terms of how we support people, how we connect with people, and how we work shoulder to shoulder with people. So I see more of that as we move forward. So taking basically the challenges that we have and taking this opportunity of hand sanitizer and looking at this as a long-term opportunity versus just a bridge.
That's excellent. Kerry, Christy, do either of you want to chime in on that?
Sure, I'll throw, for us, I think there's a lot that's changed that will remain in this new normal. We may not all return to work in offices. We may not go back to traveling around the world as frequently as we used to. But I think beyond the tactical, the two things that come to mind for me are, one, there have been some skills and competencies that we've needed to quickly scale up. For us, particularly around the digital experience, digital platforms, technology, and that won't change. We will continue to bring that into the events that we do in the future, regardless. So that, kind of similar to what Michele said, it's an opportunity for us, and it's an opportunity that we'll embrace regardless. I think the other piece for me, both within my team and globally at Cisco, is it's this awareness of our humanity and this awareness of the work-life balance that we each as individuals are managing, and how that's unique to every single employee and team member that you have. You know, as we were saying from Moments of Levity, we've had those glimpses into people's homes. Maybe it's homeschooling, maybe it's an elderly parent that you're taking care of. Maybe it's the fact that you live alone and you're lonely. We have had the opportunity to grow the appreciation for the complexity across our teams and the humanity. And I think those open conversations that we're having and the accommodations that we're making of our teammates are something that we will continue to bring forward into our culture for hopefully forever, in my mind.
I share that hope with you, Kerry, because we're seeing that as well, and we've always been a leader in terms of flexibility and a number of things that have made us, people bringing their diverse experiences and needs and owning the opportunity to craft their career. But I actually see just an even bigger opportunity here, and as people have just been so open, honest, and real about what they're balancing.
It's that authenticity of understanding. I think in the past it was like, oh yeah, you need to go pick up your daughter, but now there's this genuineness about it, and that's what I think we want to bring forward as leaders and as colleagues as well, is that genuine understanding, the realness of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Christy, how about you? Anything that you brought forward from your first experience that's now helping you today, and anything from this experience that you want to see brought forward, either personally from the organization or even just from society?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I 100% agree with everything that has just been said. I think this trust of the job will get done, we all need to do it in different ways and at different times, is going to be a big result of this, I hope, and I hope that it continues on. For our organization, I think something that's really come through over the last 9 months is everyone at every level has got amazing ideas, and a lot of these ideas they've very quickly been tried, and a lot of them have stuck, and that has been huge. Is we just, as one big team, it's everyone has got voices, and we have that opportunity to quickly innovate and quickly try things out. And this is allowing that for every organization. Nobody knows. It's all so uncertain. And so there's a lot of opportunity for innovation and quick decisions. And I think that will do us all well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I like the next question, and I don't know, there was a video circulating. It's one of those things that made me giggle so much yesterday. It was a woman coming back from April to herself in January and trying to explain her new reality, but we're not giving away too much because of the butterfly effect. So if you have a chance to see it, it's pretty hysterical. But what would you do if you could go back? Kerry, you'd probably have to go back to December, right? If you could go back and talk to yourself a month or 2 months ago, what would you say to yourself? What advice would you give to yourself? How would you have prepared your January or December self, Kerry? Other than get lots of sleep and prep.
I've seen that video and I had to laugh. Other than the juice diet and a couple of the obvious things, but I guess for us, it's very much about bringing that agility to the conversations that we're having, bringing that agility to the planning, and thinking about contingency planning. I mean, we all talk about contingency planning, but there's a big difference between the simulation of what might happen and how it actually unravels. And you're never going to be able to plan for the way it unravels, but what you can plan for is agility, having strong bench talent in terms of the skills that you may need to spin up, and the ability to pivot, to use the word that WNORTH team has pulled in not a cliche way, but in a graceful and meaningful way. So for me, what would I do differently? I mean, there's probably a few multi-million-dollar contracts I wouldn't have signed so early if I had known. You know, I think it's less about what I would have done differently, and I think it's more about the things I would have made the time to fit in, and that comes to appreciation. Appreciation for what we had before, I think is a big one for me. Just taking those moments of reflection to appreciate what was kind of the situation at hand. And I think we can continue to do that today, is, you know, having that appreciation for where we are today, because it's going to look different tomorrow. Yeah.
Michele, do you want to tackle that? What would you go back and tell yourself in January?
You know, I think it's really hard. I find it hard to go back sometimes. I feel like we have to always just look forward. I would, you know, tell myself in January, I guess, just, you know, buckle up, because you're in for a bumpy road, but you can do this, and we can do this. We have the team, we have the expertise, we have the facilities, and we can move through this. And for us, that's what we're doing every single day. And so I would just say, it's just, you know, keep the faith, keep hope and optimism front and center, and just get at every single day and get back to your entrepreneurial roots and make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you. Christy?
Oh goodness, if you had told me this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't know if I ever would have believed it. We definitely used the analogy of the marathon in the first crisis. And I was thinking January, we were looking at the finish line. We had a date for reopening. And I probably would have really, really appreciated all of that, of just really celebrating what we had accomplished even more, and kept that plan book open and ready is what I would have done, because it wasn't long after, but I never in a million years would have. I think it would have been more like August if you'd told me, and this is what's going to happen 3 weeks after you reopen. Disbelief, really. It's all I can say.
Yeah. I think as a big time extrovert, I think I would have gone and hugged more people and done more social stuff. I was so excited yesterday when I went for my run and it was garbage day, because there were so many people taking their garbage out. Now, they were in their pajamas. They didn't really want to say hi, but I was so excited by the number of people I actually got to greet from a distance. So I think I'd go back and maybe spend a little more time with some of my family that I'm not seeing right now too. There's a question that's come up, and it's, I think they've asked it of you, Michele, but I think it's applicable to everyone. It's just, when moving ahead with your pivot, how, as a leadership team, how did you go through that decision-making process, and how confident did you feel? You know, how big a risk did this feel like? How much uncertainty? I think you've touched on it a bit, but do you want to just talk to that question?
You know what, it's calculated risks, I think. So how did we come to it as a team? It's collaboration. Everybody has a voice in it. But it you know, it comes down to the economics of making your business viable and continuing to make sure that we get through to the other side. So there's collaboration, there's input, but we don't have time to actually, you know, map it all out and do the analysis from, you know, backwards and forwards. We certainly go through it methodically, and we get the information, but you got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to get at it and take action. So again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's that entrepreneurial drive that has moved us forward, quite frankly. You know, there's no right answer. It's just constantly moving the process forward every single day. Does that answer?
Yeah, I think so. Kerry, there's a specific question for you, and I think it applies to all of our organizations. Just how are our organizations managing employees who do get ill, and any lessons learned to pass on?
So I personally have been fortunate in that I haven't had anyone directly on my team impacted. So, you know, I've been fortunate on that. Um, you know, I take this question with a little bit of a grain of salt because I want to just take a moment to say, you know, through this experience, I've come to have this an appreciation for the company that I work for, and that it's just, they've been amazing. From the CEO down to kind of all the teams, the support, the transparency of communications, the flexibility has just been amazing. So we are fortunate to have, you know, an excellent benefits package. We have a team of medical doctors who are able to provide those employees with, you know, second opinions and some additional context. And we do have the ability to provide those employees with flexibility. So flexibility in terms of the amount of time that they need to take. And this is both for employees who are personally ill, or perhaps for employees who have individuals within their household who are ill, a parent, a child, a spouse. So giving them the flexibility to take the time that they need to recover. So those have all been big ones. Of course, there is complexity around that when you're looking at kind of different country to country, but I think that empathy and as well as a focus on just getting them the information that they need to make the decisions that they need to make as individuals. There's a lot of information out there, and I think one of the things that's been great is for our company to be able to help them sift through the information that helps them in a given moment.
That's great. I really appreciate it. So we're getting close to the end of our session. So I want to end with a question that's come in from the participants, and just get each of your perspective as to whether you think that this will create a more empathetic worldwide culture in the future. So do you think that there's actually going to be, you know, a positive impact on our society coming out of this? Is there, you know, we've talked about some of the challenges, but also some of the positives. So any comments on that? Maybe Christy, do you want to?
Yeah, I think there's so many really amazing stories that are coming out of this, whether it be communities, countries, provinces. Dr. Bonnie Henry is a good example of leading with empathy. And I read a great article about a lot of leaders who are really leading through that whole value of empathy. And I think it does. I think people are hearing stories of how this is affecting everyone in really different ways, whether you're, you know, pivoting like AG, or you're a tiny business who's just had to close down. It's affecting everyone in different ways, but we're also connecting as communities, and how do we help each other through it? So I absolutely think it's going to change how we move forward in an empathetic way.
Kerry, Michele, anything to add to that?
I'll jump in there. I'll say, you know, again, absolutely. I think times of crisis and adversity are times for reflection and learning as well. And if you're not taking the opportunity to reflect and to learn, then you're actually missing an opportunity, both as a leader as well as an individual. And so I do feel very strongly that, you know, all of us as individuals, all of us as leaders, and all of us as members of communities, many different communities, I think we've all learned a lot, we've gotten perspective, and I do feel very strongly that we will emerge from this stronger, we will emerge from this more empathetic, we will emerge from this with a more mindful approach to how we care for each other, how we care for our teams, and how we care for the planet, quite frankly.
Thank you. Thank you, Kerry. Michele.
Yeah, I would agree with everything Kerry and Christy said. I'm a believer. I believe that we are going to come out of, I don't think we're going to know, quite frankly, until we're through it, but what exactly we went through and how profound this pandemic has been on all of us. But I see it play out locally. I see the way, you know, people are circling around restaurants and supporting restaurants, and I see it on a global basis. And it can't help but drive empathy and compassion, and realize that we are all in this together, and we can get through it together, and we can come out of it stronger. So I'm a believer. I'm keeping the hope, and I just wish everybody the best as we move forward.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our panelists. I just a wide variety of stories and experiences, but the common thread really across all of your stories and all of your examples of incredible leadership is about its care, the people first focus, and really finding ways to care for your people, care for your communities, and find a path forward, whatever our new normal looks like, that is positive. And I really appreciate all of your time today. So, Heather, would you like to take it away?
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. And, you know, I just wanted to, you know, echo some of the comments that I've seen in the chat. And there's a lot of thank yous. And one of the things that was really great about the discussion is businesses and entrepreneurs and employees from organizations very different sizes logged in today. And so it was a really great perspective bringing these three different stories to light. So I want to thank all the panelists for being very authentic and honest and real about what we're going through right now. So thank you. And this is our second session of our pivot session. We have another one tomorrow. I will be moderating it. It is called Leadership Lessons to Support Working Parents During COVID-19. And so we have three amazing panelists: Esther Wojcicki, who's the author of How to Raise Successful People, Nita Malik, who's head of diversity and cross-cultural marketing at Unilever, and Mark Gaspardo, who is a military veteran and leadership advisor who has some advice on routine and regimen for having kids at home. So that will be at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you all can join us. Thank you to everyone today. Amazing discussions. We will have resources and these videos up next week. Bear with us. We are a small team of 2 people. So if we will have them up next week as opposed to this week. So I thank you all for joining us and hope you can log in tomorrow for our session. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.